Hey man, Alvin Hope Johnson. I'm here with my great friend Veena Jetti, and man, I think these mics sound good unless I got something going on in my head that I just heard something different. Oh, it's going on in my head? Thank you, David.
I was like, can you hear it?
I thought I did.
Yeah, we all hear things in our head. It's totally normal.
That's okay. They love me over here.
If this is any indication of how this podcast is going to go, I don't know.
It is an indication. So this is the Dream Home Dreamer podcast. And so, Veena, you know, me and you connected on Clubhouse.
Yes.
We
reconnected
Yeah,
on
we
Clubhouse.
reconnected
Yes.
on Clubhouse. And such a fascinating story of how you got and where you are. And, you know, we were talking about your family. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your mom, dad, how you got here, and tell us what your dream is and how you're fulfilling it.
Yeah. Well, so if you've heard me on Clubhouse, you know that.
Yeah, tell us about who you are and what you do and all that.
Okay, so who I am, I'm a large multifamily owner, operator. Seriously, if you've heard me on Clubhouse, you've probably heard like all of this 100 times.
Los can do it all the way through, right?
Okay, for the people who haven't heard me, I'm a large multifamily owner, operator. We buy 200 units and up at a time in Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Arizona. Those are our targets for this year.
And I want to ask you about Arizona.
You want to ask me about Arizona? Okay.
Later.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Oh, later
Yeah.
in private, so that no one else can learn.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, but we look for those Class B value add assets. We go in, we renovate, and then we exit, typically on a 5 to maybe 7 year hold. My mom and dad. So
I was about because that just slides off the tongue. We don't have to get into that. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll tell you how I started in real estate, and then you can ask me whatever you want to ask me. So my mom was actually a very successful real estate investor, and so my parents came here as immigrants, and it's like the American dream, right? And so they came here with $26, pretty much like every other immigrant.
So you're one generation.
Yes,
I'm
the second generation.
Second generation removed from $26.
Yeah, from $26, and they both retired early based on their portfolio, and they really laid a great foundation for me. And they didn't do multifamily at the scale that I'm doing it at now, but they gave me the stepping stone to get to where I am now. And
was that through education or watching their work ethic, or?
I think it was the work ethic more than anything else, but also they took on very calculated risks, right? Okay. So when you come here, not knowing anybody here, not having credit, not having money at your disposal, like my dad made $400 a month when they first moved here.
And how old is your dad?
My dad will be, let's see, what is it, 68 in November. And so
you know, when you say your dad, I see you as my friend, so I don't think about that your dad's just a few years older than me, so.
I know we are friends, but I think that's why so many of us look up to you because of what you're doing.
He's like 11 years older than me, but
that's like a lot. That's like a half generation.
Yeah, but you think about, we're not talking about the 30s.
Yeah, no. Yeah, not the 1930s. No, this was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And he made $400 a month, and my parents were able to save and build credit based on that. And look, there's a little bit of luck involved too, because they were, one medical emergency away from financial ruin at that time. But, the luck was on their side there, and they saved, and they instilled in us really, really good personal financial concepts. And I think that's really important. That's something a lot of people don't get. Yeah. And so from a very young age, we understood how money worked, how debt works, what leverage is. I was going to closings with my parents when I was like a kid. And
okay. So you not just hearing it at home, but watching them interact with their customers or clients, etc., just brought you up. So how do you go from that to where you are today? Tell us about your schooling or education that led to this.
Yeah, so
you don't just go, oh, mom's a realtor, I'm going to go buy 5 million
My mom wasn't
apartments.
a realtor, though.
Oh.
She was an investor. So she would buy houses, and she'd have tenants, and she'd rent them out. But education-wise, I went to undergrad at the University of Illinois in Chicago, and my degree was in finance. I did graduate early, so I have a little more experience than a lot of people my age because I graduated when I was 20. So
Okay.
I started working
From college?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were really disciplined, applied yourself, and
I feel like people who knew me back then are going to see this and totally call it out. So no, if I'm being
but
honest.
obviously, yeah.
No, I think college, what it's important for isn't actually the stuff you learn in class. I mean, that's obviously a part of it, but that's all accessible today on the internet, right?
Right.
You don't need to go to college to learn about like a T12 or a P&L or anything of that nature. What you go there for is the learning how to manage and balance a schedule, because you're like kind of like a baby adult in college, and then it's the people you meet, and it's the credibility that it establishes, right? It's a lot different when I ask someone to write me $100,000 check and I have a finance degree, which gives me a fundamental understanding of the numbers, than it is if I was like, hey, I dropped out of high school, but can you just trust me with all? And then you can make up for it with your experience, track record, resume.
Once you
but
get there.
It's a lot harder to get there initially. But once you get there, I mean, experience rules them all. So I graduated from college when I was 20. Your mom was like, great, you'll come work for the family business. And I was like, no, I'm an adult. I have a degree. I don't need to work for the family business. I'm going to do something revolutionary. So I went and worked in corporate real estate and made a whole bunch of money for other people, and ultimately left my corporate job in 2012.
Okay.
And started investing for myself. And
from a corporate job, again, you don't just go out and say, we're going to go buy thousands of apartments. So what did you do in that job to prepare you for the next stage?
So I was on the management team on a $1 billion asset in DC.
Okay.
So I got a lot of exposure to leases, tenants. I got a lot of exposure to the financials, profit and loss, seeing how billables were treated on the management side. So being able to have all of that really put me in a position to be able to translate that into the smaller scale business that I was starting, because I was on a multi-billion-dollar company that had multi-billion-dollar assets, a little different than what I started doing. And so we started investing for ourselves. So I actually started buying condos. Uh-oh. Oh, is that my phone or yours?
Mine.
Oh, I was going to say, it could totally be mine. Let's see who it is. Answer it. I'm just kidding.
No. You'll be all right.
If someone's just selling you an extended warranty on your car,
That's probably what it was.
It's important.
They're effective, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh, so many spam calls from that. But yeah, so I started buying condos in DC. I still have some of them today.
Okay.
And then eventually the challenge that you get into when you're in single family, and I don't know if you started in single family.
I did.
Okay, so the challenge is scale, right?
I had no idea.
Yeah, you can't get to scale. And I didn't know that I could be doing this at that time. And I started raising capital from investors almost accidentally, actually.
Really?
Because,
well, hang on. Let me back up a minute. So there are a lot of people that are probably going to watch this that heard you say you went from a corporate job to starting your own boutique firm, right? And so while you were on that job, were you always crying and complaining about being there, or were you maximizing the time that you had there to get the education you needed to get out while being paid by somebody else?
Do you want the truth?
No.
You want me to lie? Okay, it's better if I lie. No.
I mean, we're just trying to help somebody.
It's like it's so embarrassing because I'm going to tell you this is the truth, okay?
Okay.
I hated working for somebody else. Okay. So much so that I would not be there a minute earlier than I had to be, and I would not be there a minute later than I had to be. Like, my boss at that job, we would be like in a meeting and he'd be like, oh, it's 4:57. You need to get going. I'm like, yes, you have 3 minutes until I need to leave. Like,
but while you were there, you were fully engaged.
Yeah, while I was there, I was fully engaged because whatever I do, I want to do it well. But working for somebody else just didn't
do you?
Yeah, it just didn't work for me. Okay. And so now I can work like 100 hours. I mean, I do it routinely, but it's it's like that Warren Buffett saying, an entrepreneur will work 100 hours for themselves so they can avoid working 40 hours for somebody else.
Right.
That's me.
Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
know that we are willing to do a whole lot more, but it's your own business. It's your baby. And
So
it's
is that
something
your
more.
dream? So tell how did that evolve
Yeah.
from, I won't say despising your job.
No, I didn't despise it. It
Okay.
was just, in my mind, it was, you are being
path.
paid to be here from this time to this time. No, I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur at that time.
Oh, okay.
I actually thought that in my future I was going to get married and have kids and be a stay-at-home mom and, maybe do something on the side here and there. But I really thought that my family would be my focus.
Okay.
And, it is my focus,
Right,
but in
right.
a different way now.
Right.
So, I didn't despise it at all. I just did not get as much out of it as probably a lot of people could get out. And if I could go back, I would have poured myself into the opportunity that was in front of me that I didn't realize at that time.
That's the point.
Yeah. I wish I would have, because
Yeah.
I learned a lot, I absorbed a lot, but how much more would I have known
Had you known that
had
that
I
was your
known
stepping
that
stone
was
to this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I left a corporate job at one of the best in the world. Like, they are so buttoned up. They're a very, very well-run machine. And I wish I would have learned more about the management of the team, the internal team, not just doing the deals or the financials of the deal, but as I'm building my company, so as Vive grows, how that is run. I think I could have learned a lot more from that part of it that I missed.
Well, you just mentioned Vive, so tell us about Vive Funds.
Yeah.
That's the baby.
That's the baby. That's the baby. Yeah, so Vive Funds is the company that I started.
I'm not going to embarrass you.
I know. Yeah, no, I was like, I know you're about to embarrass me.
I'm not going to embarrass you.
No, it's been a labor of love. It's something that I take a lot of pride in because it's
you.
me. Yeah, it's the buck stops with me, and I answer for everything that happens there. But that's the operational entity or the general partnership entity that I operate under for apartment complexes.
So you talked about your family being your focus, and Vive is your baby, and so where to from here, Veena? I mean, most people would think that you're accomplished, and why continue? What fuels this?
Yeah, so there are two reasons that fuel this for me, and it's both of my babies. So I have twin 2-year-old daughters, and it's really important for me that they grow up knowing that they don't have to choose between having a family or having a career, and that this is a legacy for me now, and that's what I'm working to leave behind.
Okay.
I want them to know that their roots are from 2 people, actually 4 people, because there are other set of grandparents who came here from another country, left everything they knew just for a chance at a better life for their
the
kids.
life, yeah.
Yes. And I feel a responsibility to take all of the sacrifice that my in-laws and my parents made and turn it into something better, because this is the land of opportunity. They came here because America is one of the few countries that you can go from being at the bottom of socioeconomic path to being a billionaire.
Wow.
Where else can you do that?
Nowhere
There's
I've heard
very few places that's even a possibility, but it happens often here. And I want my kids to, people always ask me, what's your goal? And it's always to leave the world a better place than I found it. And I
Right.
think that should be everybody's goal.
Yeah.
And for me, that includes making sure that my girls who are women of color are not told that they can't do something because of their skin color or their gender. That's very, very important to me.
Awesome. So you're second generation.
Yes.
I know that you and your husband have put a lot of dynamic stop gaps in to make sure that this legacy goes on and on. So the way you're planning this will not be a 3-generation family that goes back.
Hope not. I always
Well, I know it's
joke
not.
about it because I'm always like, my kids are going to be the ones that sell all of our assets. Like, I hope they don't.
But with
Yeah.
the values that you guys are instilling in them,
Yeah.
and the same quality of family time that you guys grew up with.
Yeah.
those kids usually don't stray away.
Oh, I really
And not
hope
two
so.
of them.
I
Maybe
mean,
one, but not two. But
that's why you have two, so you have a spare, right? No, I hope not. I think that it is important to start these discussions early. And that's actually something I always say to communities of color that listen to us speak on our various platforms, right? Is it's not too young to start your kids talking about.
when you
certain
said that the other day, I think people were amazed that you said you're explaining finances and stuff to your
Yeah.
2-year-olds, even though they don't get it today.
No, but they will.
But they will get it.
They will. They have savings accounts. They have an investment portfolio. They have an IRA account. Because if you go online and find like a calculator, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you put $6,000 a year into an IRA from the time you're like 2 to retirement age, it compounds. Even if you never put any more money in, that 6,000 compound interest is.
You know, I did that a long
Secret.
time ago
You should do it again.
Well, now I won't call it a problem for me.
No, but you have generations
Well,
down
I
the
do.
line,
Well, that's true.
right? And you could teach them how to do it. I started my first business when I was not that much older than my girls.
Yeah, I heard you say
Yeah,
that.
I had my gumball business. I had my first
That's cool.
investor then. Did you hear the story?
Was that your mom was your first investor?
My mom was my
your
first
gumball? But I
investor.
didn't know it was gumballs.
Yeah, it was gumballs. So someone gifted me a little gumball machine where you like put the penny in and you turn in, you get a gumball. And my mom, I convinced her to buy me gumballs. And then everybody that I would see, I would say, hey, do you want a gumball? And they'd go, yeah, that would be great. And I carried pennies in my pocket. And then I'd say, okay, it costs a dime. And they give me a dime. And then I'd pull a penny out of my pocket and I'd hand them the penny to put in the gumball machine and turn it.
Are you serious?
And that was what I did. And obviously I didn't know I was running a business at that time, but, and I definitely did not pay back the investor that invested in that deal pretty much ever.
Is that the only time?
Yeah, that's the one investor that I didn't feel an obligation to pay back ever. But my dad always, like, when he talks about it, he's like, yeah, to see people's faces when they give you this dime and then you pull out a penny. And I was like, yeah, and it was even smarter because I kept the penny too. Right. So it was a pure profit, really.
Yeah. Right.
If only business worked that way
now.
Well,
it kind of does for some people.
I mean, if it was that easy, great.
Yeah.
But my parents nurtured those qualities in me from a very young age. And so, my girls, I talk to them about money. Anytime I like sell their like stroller, their car seat or whatever.
You invest that money into their...
I put it into their stock portfolio for
that's
them.
Cool.
Yeah, so it'll grow and eventually...
And you're talking to them about it and they don't get it, but they'll look up at 8 years old and go, oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's a very powerful tool to understand money.
Yeah.
And most people are intimidated by it.
And why do you think that is?
It's complex.
Because it's scarce, because of a scarcity mindset, or because it's too hard, too many moving parts to it, or?
As a society, I feel like we've made it taboo to talk about money in some regards.
Mm-hmm. And some communities, I definitely agree with that.
I'm not going to go and like tell my children everything because I want them to not feel entitled, right? So it's like the balance between that. But I want them to understand money, and I want them to understand it well enough to be able to take calculated risks.
Okay.
Because reward is in the risk. And that's what I want them to do. And the younger you are, the more risk you can take on.
That's true.
Because you have time. That's the biggest commodity.
And that's the part that I was saying that, that's great. And I'd love to teach the next generation of my family. Hopefully my son, he's really smart. So he's smart enough to not do what I did. And do the smart stuff. Right?
Yeah, and that's what we hope for, like, the next generation, right? That they do better than we did.
Yeah.
And then hopefully pass that forward and pass it downstream. But I think, two is not, the concepts we talk about, like, they love magnet tiles. Do you know what a magnet tile is? You have grandchildren, so you might.
No, I don't.
Okay, they're these, like, plastic pieces that have little magnets sewn into, or like encased in the edges of it.
Okay.
And then you can like build different.
Oh, that's the stuff you were
structure.
telling me
That's-
that they're developing neighborhoods out of. Your girls.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So Vivana, my twin A, she is a developer and she builds these magnetized houses. My other daughter is the one that does demolition. So Via comes in and smashes everything down. But so these magnetiles, they're really expensive. They cost $1 for each tile.
Okay.
Like, it's really expensive.
Yeah, you
Was
got a board full of them.
Yeah. You buy like a 50 or 100 at a time. So they're not cheap, but you need to have like really good quality ones because otherwise magnets can be dangerous. Whatever. And so whenever Vivana is building these, I'm like, Vivana, this house that you just built, we used 7 of these. That's $7. And she'll go, yeah, $7.
So now she's getting a concept of money.
Right.
For what that house cost her to build it.
Exactly. And so
At 2.
And
Wow.
so you'd be amazed at what kids can
Pick up.
absorb and what they repeat too, which
Yeah.
gets me in a little bit of trouble sometimes, but
But that's so amazing. And you're so intentional with the little
Yes.
things.
yes, we're very intentional with that. We're intentional with like learning numbers. They count, we teach them to count. We incorporate into everyday life too, right? So whenever I'm doing something, I'll be like, okay, do you want 1 piece of fruit or do you want 2 pieces of fruit? Can we cut this 1 piece of fruit into 8 pieces or 6 pieces? And then we count them together. So we incorporate it into everyday life. But this is the foundation of building toward financial concepts, right?
Wow.
And so that's why we do it. We're intentional with it.
And that's, well, obviously y'all heard it starts at home.
It does.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're spending most of your
Right.
time.
That's right.
We're really big on reading. We read a lot in our house.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sure you read
I'm a
as much
reader.
as I. Yeah, I read all day long. I actually read this study. This is like totally not multifamily related, but it's on the path to success related. Do you know that if you read to your child 5 books a day, from the time they're born to the time they go to kindergarten hearing 1 million more words than their average peer.
No kid, just up to kindergarten.
Yep, just up to kindergarten.
But you say
5
5
a day.
books?
Yeah, and I'm not
Oh,
talking
the
about
little
like
small
these.
child books.
I mean like picture books, storyboard books, kids books. And it
No.
can be the same book over and over, but they hear 1 million more words before they go, or by the time they go to kindergarten.
That's powerful, isn't it?
It's huge
Talk
because
about a
knowledge is
foundation.
power.
Yeah.
And being able to convert that is power, and establishing that really what it is for me, I want to establish or instill a curiosity in them that's insatiable. I want them to have a love of learning because that's where you continue to grow.
It
And
is.
that's where they can take what we've done when they're done with college, they can take what we've done and they can multiply it.
Got it.
Then the limits are boundless at that
That's true.
point.
That's true.
And so I think it's just instilling that from a young age. We'll see. I have like 16 more years before I find out if I've totally ruined them or not.
Well,
right?
but we already know that's not going to happen.
I hope not.
So that's the dream, the legacy. That's what
yeah,
it is.
it's the legacy. It's for my kids. And
How can we help somebody listening with your thought process?
well, I think being in the spaces that people like you are in is obviously one of the most powerful ways. Because even being around people like you, for me,
Tell me what that means.
being around you,
People like me.
oh, people like you. I mean, you are doing something that's truly remarkable, right? You said you're not that much younger than my dad, even though you are. You are utilizing brand new cutting edge technology in your development. I would have never known what these SIP panels were if I hadn't heard you speak about them. But now I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, okay,
We can go be developers.
no, I'm not thinking that.
You
That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm thinking. No, but I am thinking every time I talk to someone who's looking to develop, I'm like, hey, I learned about something from my friend Alvin that is doing really well from this. You should talk to him. And so for me, it's just that growth is important. You and I look at pro formas all the time, right? Like how many times have we looked at numbers and geeked out over them?
Yeah.
And I ask you questions about what you see in your field, and it makes me better in my field. because they're closely related, though they're not the same. And there are ideas and thoughts that I can take from you and put them into my business and vice versa. So I think being around people that are high achieving, who are doing what they do, whether it's in your field or not, at the highest level. How are they doing it? Exactly. Yeah. And we're in these Clubhouse rooms a lot. We go to Clubhouse Live. We're there in person. I don't go there to hear just speakers speaking on stage. I'm going there because I want to network. Yeah, I want to network. I want FaceTime with you. I want to know that when you have the next opportunity that maybe is a good fit for us to work together, you're calling me before you're calling the next person, right? So that's what the power of these types of networking events are.
Yeah.
And being in these rooms on Clubhouse, like I've invested passively in other people's deals from Clubhouse. And I'm actually going to be potentially making a 7-figure investment into someone that I met on Clubhouse over the next 12 to 18 months. That's kind of the path or the goal. And so those are things that are really important to know, that these are opportunities that don't just come along because you're sitting at home,
That's
right?
Correct.
Like
right. Making connections.
Who knew that an app would be something that could connect you to somebody that could create
like
so
this.
much? Yeah. And I think so. For me, like being in those spaces are the easiest, the cheapest. It's free.
That's for sure. Yeah.
And the best investment of time is finding the people that are doing the things you want to be doing, and like stalk them. Like I stalk you into all these rooms.
Yeah, like we stalk each other.
And stalk each other, please.
Yeah, we do.
But we do. And I mean, I know Clubhouse, there's a ticket cost, but it's nominal compared to the value.
I think so.
I mean, I hope so.
Well, no one would
come.
What I paid to go to other events.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, and it's price is what you pay, value is what you get.
That's
right?
correct.
And so, if you have an opportunity, forget the money part of it, right? Like forget, I can make $1,000 if I go to this conference that I paid on. Forget that. If you have the opportunity to change your trajectory or your path, or you have the opportunity to, even from this conversation, right? If you heard that what we do with our kids, and now you start adopting some of that with your kids, and they become successful, what is that worth?
If I had kids,
you do have kids. If you had
if I had
babies.
Kids, I mean, I would be going. Well, I'm going. Man, I'm so glad my kid he made it.
Yeah, right. Right, because you could go the other way so easily.
I'm so glad he made it, because I didn't do any of that and didn't know any better.
That's the thing, is you just don't know sometimes. I mean, and I'm sure there are tons of parents out there that do other things that I'm like, okay, I didn't think of that. I'm going to adopt that. Like, I've been thinking about how we're going to handle allowances. My parents handled it differently than I intend to handle it, and I want to do it in a way that encourages them to entrepreneurship, not to
expect
or a job, right? Like you do your chores and you get $20 or whatever that. Yeah. I don't even know what's in line for allowances these days. I have like no idea. But what I want to do we have time? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean,
we're gonna just hang out all day.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Neither of us have real work to do.
Y'all got some hopping views right now.
Oh, awesome.
Well, I'm about to share like my idea, and this is like all theoretical because my kids aren't old enough to implement it yet. So let's see if it actually works.
Go ahead, share it with us.
So what I want to do is, we're entrepreneurs, right? Where do we make our money? We solve problems for people that have money.
Right.
And so what I want to do with my kids is, I don't want to give them an allowance and say like, hey, you do these 5 chores and you're going to get your $20 a week or whatever. What I want to do with them is I want to say, okay, there's all these things that need to be done, and I want you to go around and find the problems that mom and dad have, and I want you to come and I want you to negotiate it with me, and I want you to come and say, hey mom, you're really busy. I am happy to, take care of
folding
the dishes.
Towels.
Yeah, folding the towels. The towels are sitting there, and so is our laundry. So it's like not the best example, but folding towels is a good example. And I want them to say, Mom, I'm going to I'm going to wash, dry, fold your towels for $2 a pound, or whatever that is, $5 a pound. And I want them to negotiate it with me, and I want them to put it into a contract. and I want them to say, okay, I'm going to fold towels. I'm going to have it done in 3 days' time. I'm going to charge you this much. And I want them to sign it. I'm going to sign it. And
negotiating for an allowance.
it's not an allowance. They're earning this money, right? Because they're solving
Well,
this
that's right.
problem. And then, if they're really smart, they're
Well,
going
that's real creative.
well, because it's teaching them
It
to
is.
identify problems that people who can afford it have, and then pay them for it. And I want them to also, I really like my entrepreneur pride, mom pride would like swell if they would be like, great mom, I'm going to charge you $2 a pound. And then they turned around and outsourced
And
it to
hired
someone that
somebody
did it
else.
for $1 a pound.
Then you know they hit home.
That's really
right.
what I'm like hoping they end up doing. But you know, it's a different way of thinking. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the dollars. It's about how they're getting
Earning
the
it. Oh,
money.
yes, correct.
Because
Correct.
the skill that I want them to learn is how to generate income, not how to go out and work for income.
Oh,
So-
say that part again.
What did I say? How to
Generate?
generate income versus going out and working for
Oh,
income.
that's so powerful. Yeah.
And so that's important
That
for
is.
me. And that's how I want my kids to be
Generate
thinking. Yeah, generate income. That's because
Instead
how many sources of
work
income
for-
do you
That's
have?
a T-shirt.
Is it?
It is.
What, generate income
Instead of work for income.
instead of working for income? Yeah, but that's like seems a little long. It's not as
We'll
so
figure
short
it
and
out.
sweet as like dream on, dreamer.
We'll figure it out.
So we're brand. But how many streams of income do you have? Can you even count them? No.
3-minute
Not that quick.
Huh?
He said we got 3-minute warning.
Okay, let's see.
So,
I gotta ramble quick then.
so,
Did they tell you they love you on the live?
oh, thank y'all, man.
Oh.
We appreciate y'all watching.
Wow.
Look at that. It's just
You know, we've been sitting here
Whoa.
just talking about Veena's path, and it's so exciting, so exhilarating to me, so inspiring. What would you leave with our adoring audience?
Oh gosh, adoring audience. One thing that I always do, right, is I don't like being told I can't do something.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I know it's something you might not know about me, is I don't like to be told no. But my mom always says it's like when Veena has a bee in her bonnet, like it's going to happen. So, and this is something that served me really well in business too, is when someone tells me we can't do something, I want to know how we can do
Right.
it. So maybe we couldn't do it one way, but what's the way to do it? Because every single problem can be solved. It just sometimes takes more creativity, flexibility, or just some different thinking to make it happen, right? And so
Creativity.
like Nick is the one, he always says, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, Nick, who's our SEC attorney, just to, I'm like, Nick, stop telling me how we can't do something and start telling me how we can do it.
Right.
Can we do this? No, Veena, you can't do that. Okay, what about this? No, you can't do that either because of blah, blah, blah. And we actually, it's a great exercise with him to eventually come up with the way that we can make something
There's
happen.
learning on both sides.
It is. And I think we both adapt from it. And again, that's like the power of being in the right spaces is, what is it? Is it lead sharpens lead or steel
Iron
sharpens
sharpens iron.
iron? Something
Yeah.
sharpens something. So I knew it was like two
Yeah.
metals
Well, yeah,
sharpening
but
each
lead
other.
probably would do that too.
But yeah, but that's, you know, even when we underwrite, the
Oh,
way
I've gotten
I
so
look,
much better.
Well, and the way I look at deals is a little bit different than you look at
Yeah.
them. And I'm like, no, wait, why are you doing this? We need to change this. Here's why.
Right.
And then you might say, no, that doesn't make sense because of this, 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 and this. Or you might say, yeah, that's a great idea. And when you talk through that, even when we're looking at your underwriting, I adopt it into my underwriting. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know that this is how a new developer is looking at an exit. So if I want to enter that asset, I can make my underwriting even better. So that's another way
Hadn't
that
thought about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now I know what you're looking for, and I know how you're looking at your exit, and your exit is going to be my entry.
Yeah.
So
Well, no, that's the other people because my exit will be your exit as we do these deals together.
smooth. That's very slick.
Well, Veena, this has been good for me. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing.
of course.
So intimate, man.
I know,
Thank you.
it is.
Yeah.
No, I always love coming and hanging out with you.
Oh, thank you. It's always my
I
pleasure.
know. And we're going to be in Miami.
We're gonna be in Miami January 6th through
Are we
8th.
sold out on tickets on that yet?
Oh, we have not sold out yet.
We might now after today's live.
That would be
'cause-
awesome. Yeah, because this is
there
what
weren't that many
Clubhouse Live
left.
is.
Yeah.
Just more of us talking more like this.
Yeah. And I need to add my affiliate link.
Yes, you need
And
to.
when I do, a
Yes.
portion of the proceeds through my affiliate link are going to charity.
Awesome.
No, not awesome. Do you know which charity?
No, but it's great.
Alvin.
Which one?
Hope Foundation.
What? You're going to
Yes.
contribute yours back to the foundation?
All of it is going back to you.
Wow.
So,
Jonathan and Jonathan.
Wow. Would you say Jetti and Jetti?
Jonathan and Jetti, Jetti and Jetti.
Yeah. Veena, thank you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know what we do with those kind of funds? We buy backpacks, school supplies. David's got people over at the property that do birthdays every week for the
love that.
kids.
Well, and you
so
know
they
how
show up in a
important that
super.
is for me.
He bought me a SpongeBob suit so I could be one of the superheroes one day.
That's great.
I hadn't done it yet, but we don't do it.
That's great. Well, I love that you are encouraging learning because we just had this whole segment pretty much
did.
unintended to be about like learning, right?
We had no idea what we were going to talk about.
We had no idea. But that's the beauty of us. We can
That's
talk
right.
about anything for
right.
hours.
Hours.
So, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I had a few people say this conversation was life changing.
Oh,
So
Wow.
thank y'all for sharing.
I'm glad to
Yes,
hear
sir.
that.
You had somebody quote you. I'm Queen Luke said, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get."
Oh, and just to be clear, like I can't take credit for that. That's like someone else's
Oh.
quote. I almost feel like it's a Warren Buffett quote because I quote him a lot. But
But you know, one of the things that
200 live viewers.
awesome.
ooh,
Wow. One of the things that you said made me think about, and I'll say this really quickly about what I learned last week about commitment promotes creativity. You know, I don't know what you said, but you talked about the commitment part.
yeah.
And so you talked about being creative and generating income. And there was something you said, but I thought about what I learned was that if we're having problems getting money or having problems with our team or having problems staying on the road, then sometimes we need to check our level of commitment.
Yeah.
Because when you're committed to a process and you get backed into a wall,
Much easier, yeah,
you're
to get
gonna
out of
come
it.
out.
You come out swinging,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's I love that.
Yeah.
Wait, say that again.
commitment promotes creativity.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's a
like
t-shirt,
goosebumps,
isn't it?
Alvin.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
love
one.
that. That is.
I
a
heard
t-shirt.
that from Grant. I got to give it to
Yeah,
him.
that is. I love that, and he's obviously very committed in
Right.
his spaces too, and so I just think that is really important because there's a lot of times where I've been, dabbling like a toe in the water in a business, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I always find the problem in every or instead of finding the opportunity in every problem, I just find the problem and I let it kill the deal. And so,
But when you're committed, you don't
right,
give up.
those are
That's
the things
other
I'm like
side.
one toe in. But when
Yeah.
I'm committed to something, I'll go to the ends of the earth to make sure it happens.
Because you won't be told no.
Yeah, because I don't like no.
So,
It's a
Veena, how can the
four-letter
people reach you?
word. Well, they can find me on Clubhouse,
Okay.
on Instagram, sort of. I'm basically Veena Jetti on all of my social media handles. But if you go to my website, vivefunds.com, I have an investor
Vivefunds.com.
portal there. So you can log in, you can see all of my offerings. And, if you're interested in investing, you have questions, you can schedule a call with me. Right there.
Vivefunds.com.
Yep, vivefunds.com. And I'm going to be at Clubhouse Live.
Yes, January 6th through 8.
Yes, in Miami. And we have to do an honor. I know you guys are trying to wrap us up, but we have to do an honorable mention on a project that we're working on.
Yeah, so
It's because it's still, it's a little bit out of the bag, but it's still slightly secretive, right?
well, we can let it all the way out of the
All the way
bag because
out.
we should close October 30th now.
Okay, all right.
I extended the contract
All right.
one more time. It
All right,
cost
we're
me,
here.
but that extension saved us $2 million on the construction.
Love it.
So we put
some things are worth
100,000 up.
it.
Oh yeah, that was. And the sellers are on my side. Our loan is just waiting on the appraisal. We should get today.
I love it.
So when the appraisal comes back,
Well, I feel like you're going into the details without telling people how they can even be involved in any of this.
well,
Tell them about our project.
our project.
In 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes.
2.5.
2.5. Build your dream. So what we're doing is me and Veena and Nick, our SEC attorney, and Larry West and Mark
Tax
Allen and
strategist,
Kalani and Ahmed Sarafi.
I like that
from-
Kaylani doesn't need a last name. She's like,
Right, everybody knows
yeah,
Kalani.
she's like
right?
Madonna. She's like Kaylani.
Yeah. But we put together a developer program that will teach you everything that we know from land acquisition through zoning process to entitlements to underwriting to talking to investors
Capital,
to raising the capital to picking your deal, why we picked it, different markets, and also building your own dream. So our dream is to put our first 200 unit apartment complex in Princeton, Texas. We've got another one going up in Laverne, Minnesota that we're closing on October 7th. Small deal, 5,000 population city.
Oh, it's
So
teeny.
it's teeny. They need 54 units. And so we're going to do 2 apartment buildings.
Nice.
That's going to be super dope.
And
But our program is going to encompass both of those
Yes.
developments that we'll be able to walk all the way through,
start to finish.
all the way to certificates of occupancy.
But you're missing the best part of it.
Go ahead, tell it.
Can I tell it?
Yes.
Okay. So Alvin, this is like totally his brainchild genius, is the people that, because it's a small intimate group, right? It's like limited.
It's no more than 20.
Yeah, so it's very limited. But the people that join it are not only going to get an opportunity to learn from
Firsthand.
from your literal
team.
projects, like real life, not simulated, not theoretical, real projects. They're going to get an opportunity to participate on the general partnership
Yep.
side. And that might not mean anything to a lot of people. And this is the reason I geek out over it, is because I had to earn my resume the old fashioned way. You know, I had to like do the deals, I had to like make the mistakes.
Right.
And I had to convince the first person that loaned on multifamily to us that I had
Jet
enough
experience.
experience to do it. And this is designed for the person that doesn't have the multi-billion-dollar corporations that they've worked for. It's designed for the person that doesn't have the parents who were investors. So it literally gives access to everybody, and I think that's so important for minorities, for women,
Yeah.
communities of color, for someone who doesn't have the privilege of pedigree.
Right.
And so you and Nick really thought up how to do
How to
this
make it work. Yeah.
correctly in
Yeah.
a way that gives someone, so if someone were to do this series,
Yes.
they end up
With
instantly saying they have 250
200 units.
200 units
Yeah.
200 units on
Under
their
their
resume
belt.
that
That's
they
right.
have been on
Developed.
the development, the general partnership or GP side
Yeah.
of the development team for. Where else can you do that?
You can't.
How else can you do that? It's ask any person who's
Yeah.
developed.
That's
They'll
right.
tell you how
That's
long
right.
it takes to get there. So it's like an instant leapfrog over this whole process, and you get the experience along the way.
Yeah.
And then you legitimately are getting ownership, or sorry, you're getting ownership in the general partnership side.
That's correct.
And so you're actually doing what you say you've done.
Yep.
And you're learning along the way, and then you have access. So
To all of us that are teaching all of these different segments.
right,
From
so
our
they'll get
respective-
to ask questions directly to you when they're working on their projects. They're gonna,
Yep.
I don't know if they're gonna like come in person.
Yeah,
or
we've got on-site
Zoom or-
visits.
yeah, okay.
The virtual piece, the classroom part is virtual.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing site visits when they're putting the utilities in the ground, when the buildings are going up.
Yeah.
We'll be walking with our hard hats on. And so, yeah, it's going to be so phenomenal. I'm excited about that.
And we've done tours together,
have,
which have
yeah.
been so much fun
Yeah.
to like see how people
Oh,
think
yes.
about things,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be great.
It's going to be great.
I'm really excited.
Man,
When
thank y'all.
When
Oh,
are
go
we
ahead.
starting that? When is the first one starting?
Well, I believe we're going to close October 30th. So, October, what's the month after that? November? Probably the middle of
Is
November.
it November this year that's after October?
I think
so.
is it this year or next year?
I think it's this year.
Okay, yes, mid-November.
Mid-November.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding you.
Veena, thank you, man. This has been good.
It's
Thank y'all for
always been
watching.
fun. Thank you.
Jay, thank you. Brock,
Yes.
thank y'all for behind the
Thank you,
scenes. Y'all
guys.
don't see them, man, but they killing it.
They are.
So
They're like that. They're the ones that make all this work.
they do. We
Let's
just
be
sit here
honest
and talk.
Yeah, we just like gab, and they get all. the
Y'all
hard
look at
work
my
done.
shirt, man. My best investment is me.
Yeah.
I want you to feel the same way. Go invest in yourself. Get the education you need. Hang out with the right people in the right place at the right time, and I promise the right things will happen for you.
Yes, be in the rooms that we're in.
That's
That's
it.
what you need to do.
You know, Grant said if you can't afford to be in the room, serve water.
till you. Yep, serve water if you can't afford a seat at the table. Serve water to get in the room.
That's it. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Dream on, dreamer.